Hello everyone. I've gotten a lot of requests of people asking about my OBS software and my green screen and how I set up my virtual classroom and stuff, so I thought I would make a video and walk you guys through it. I'm going to go pretty in-depth in terms of being able to set all this up, so it might end up taking a while to walk through this whole video. But if you have any questions, my email address is abutler@garlandisd.net. So let me tell you first off what you see here. On your screen you see two monitors. I have a dual monitor setup. You can do this with one monitor without a problem. The reason that I've decided to record it on both monitors the way that I do it is because A, I already have it set up like that, and B, it's just going to be easier for you to see what's going on if I'm going back and then if I'm switching back and forth between screens. So you can just see I've got my monitor on my left with my pretty little, that's not my bird, that's just a a stock picture from Windows, and then on the right I've got my Chrome tab open. So let's go ahead and get started. The software that I'm going to be talking about is called OBS. OBS stands for Open Broadcaster Software. You can see it up at the top here right there. That's their little logo. Open means that it's open sourced. Open sourced means that somebody wrote the program, but they didn't copyright it. They just put the source code out there, and anybody can modify the source code, and then you can download the modifications. So OBS is it's like a base program. You can think of it as like a foundation, and then anybody anywhere can just build on that foundation, and then you can choose which pieces you want. So it's a really fantastic software. It's free, it's open source, and it's used by, like, I know my church even uses it when they're streaming to Facebook. They use OBS. Like, it's a lot of people use the software. It's very reliable. It's very simple. So in order to download, you're going to need two things. You're going to need first the foundation, which is the OBS project. That's the main software that you'll use. And then you'll use something else called VirtualCam, which is like one of those things I said people can go in and write their own code for it. VirtualCam is like that. And all VirtualCam does is it turns your OBS stream, meaning the things that you set up in OBS, into its own camera. So for instance, if you go into Google Meets and you go into your settings in Google Meets, you can pick your camera. So let's say you have two cameras plugged into your computer. You can choose, do I want camera A or camera B? Well, what VirtualCam does is it turns OBS into its own camera B. It's not a physical camera connected to your computer, it's a virtual webcam. So that's what it's doing. So let me show you what we're going to do to install this. This stuff is already installed on my computer, obviously, so I'm not going to go through all of the steps to install it, but it's pretty self-explanatory. It's just like installing anything. You're going to go to obsproject.com to download the OBS software, and then click whatever OS you're using, probably Windows, and then you will install the software from there. It'll stream and then install with an exe file. And then in order to download and install OBS Virtual Cam, you're going to want to do OBS first, and you're going to have to restart your computer a couple of times during this process. And then you're going to want to download OBS Virtual Cam after that and install it after OBS is already installed. So this is the website right here. If you want to just look at it and see what it is, it's github.com/FENRITI/OBS-virtual-cam/OBS-tag/2.0.5. It's a bit of a long URL because GitHub is that place where you can upload open source files to. So to the uninitiated, it might look like a bit of a spam link, but it's really not. This is just where people put their open source files for you to be able to download. The other way that you can get to it, honestly, is if you just Google download OBS Virtual Cam. That's how I got to this page. I never remember where all this is in GitHub. I just Google it. So if you Google download, look, it's already there. Download Virtual Cam, there it is. It's a top link, and that's going to link you to the GitHub, and then you're going to come here and go to the GitHub. Well, oh, I clicked the wrong thing. It's right here. There we go. So there you go. So when you're here, you're going to want to download the Windows installer right there. I don't actually know if there's a Mac version of VirtualCam. I feel like somebody said that there was, but I haven't used this on a Mac, so you might have to Google that actually. Of course, at school, I have absolutely no idea if administrator privileges will work. I have installed third-party software on my computer at school before. I've installed Adobe, Photoshop, and stuff like that, and that worked just fine. I didn't need a special code for it. So I don't know that there's going to be a problem. I haven't been to campus yet. I've been doing virtual, so I do not know if this will install. I don't see it being a problem because it's just a standard exe. So you're going to click Windows Installer, follow the prompts. You'll install OBS Virtual Cam. It will ask you what kind you want to install, either a single camera or 4 cameras. Go ahead and install 4 cameras. And the reason for that is because it gives you an option. Sometimes different programs will accept one form versus another. I've never had a problem using just the first camera on the virtual cam, but go ahead and install the 4 and it gives you more options. It doesn't take up like any more space or anything. It's just the way that you'll see it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and close all this out. Okay, so you install OBS, you install VirtualCam. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys that part later and this part later. Okay, so I'm gonna now I'm going to open OBS. So mine's down here on the link. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this, and I'm gonna show you what you'll see. So when you first open this, I was at a scene I've already made. When you first open this, it'll be blank, kind of like this. This is going to go in a second. There we go. So the way that OBS works is it allows you to create profiles and then scenes within each profile that you can switch back and forth between, and that's what your kids see on the screen. So when I go to Google Meets, I'll just show you that right now. Let's just make up a Google Meet. Nobody's going to be in here. This was my meeting from earlier. This shows camera starting. Now you come down here to this, it's not a waffle menu, it's I forget what it's called, the 3 dots. Go to settings. You'll notice under video, under camera, now I have OBS camera, okay? I have other cameras connected to my computer as well, so if you have a webcam, like the one that I'm using right here, that's going to be this guy. That's my physical camera. This right here is a webcam attached to a microphone that doesn't work, so I actually have it turned off, but it's still connected to my computer, so it's showing it. This is something else. This allows me to stream from my phone. This right here, OBS camera 2, 3, and 4. These are actually streams coming from this OBS software. So if you watch right here, I'm on OBS camera 1. This is all black. This is all black. Now, if I go over here and I decide to switch scenes, let's go to my office hours scene. Now, see, this is what, now, to me, it's backwards, but the people in the actual meet see it correctly. They don't see it flipped. So I can, every time I select here, notice that changes. I'm going to click up here, and then that changes over here. So this is acting as a virtual camera. I get to decide what appears on this screen, and I can edit this. I mean, there's just endless possibilities for things that I can make it stream to this part of the meet. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this so that you can see how I set all this up. So first off, we have, I just have one profile. I use it, the profile for myself. There we go. I'm guessing, I've never tried to use different kinds of profiles with this. I'm guessing that if you have multiple people sharing one computer, that would be a good way to implement profiles. I don't have anybody that shares this computer, so I've never used profiles. I only use scenes and sources and scene collections. Okay? So this is the first scene collection is called primary. That's the one that's just automatically there. And when you first open this up, I don't remember what this says originally. I renamed it, and it says something. There should be just one scene here and then no sources. So what you can do is you can add anything that you want into this space, and it's going to be what appears over here. So let me show you an example. So this is just going to be what I call my lecture scene. So I'm going to use my lecture scene for if I'm just talking to the kids. I want them to pay attention to what my hands are doing. I want them to pay attention to what my face is doing. I don't want them to be distracted by a whole bunch of other stuff on the screen, right? So lecture is going to be very simple. So the only things I'm going to add are going to be a background and my face. Now you'll notice down here, you can see my face is in the webcam in the corner. That's just part of my screen recording software. That's not part of OBS or anything. That's just I just turned that on for this part of the tutorial. You can see that I have a green screen behind me. This happens to be one that I just own. I'm a photographer, and so I just happened to have a green screen. You can make your own, or you can just not use one. It doesn't matter either way. You don't have to have a green screen in order to use OBS software. If you have a green screen, then it allows the scene behind you to be transparent, but it's not necessary. It's not vital. Some people get boards and paint them green as long as it's not shiny, as long as it's a flat paint. Some people use green cloth. I got this, like I said, at Target. I think it was $40 maybe. And I just have it, I literally have it hanging from the ceiling with a hook. So it's just hanging there, and it comes off really easily. So I just take it down at the end of each day. Okay, so where was I? I've got the webcam, I've got my green screen. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to add something to the sources here. So I've got my scene, and my scene is going to be a collection of sources. It's going to be whatever I design to be on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and add a background image first. So if you come here, over here it says sources, and that means what am I going to put in there? Am I going to put some text? Am I going to put a slideshow? What's going to be on the screen for the kids to see? So I'm just going to add a background image. So I'm going to go to add, and then I'm going to go to image. Now you'll notice there's a lot of things here, and there's a lot of different things that you can play around with that you can add. I'm going to go through all of what those are in just a second, but for now I'm just going to show you how it works. So here I've got to add an image. I'm just going to call this my background. Okay, now I'm going to browse my background images. All right, so I happen to have mine in a spot here where I was teaching, and I had all of my backgrounds here. So let's go ahead and add this as a background, and then hit OK. Now, this guy right here is in the background of my camera. So if I come over to Google Meets again, now you can see that it's waiting for the camera, and now it's streaming this image. If I take this and move it over, see, it's happening in real time because it's stopping in real time. You know what? I'm going to back up for a second because some of you might be having a problem getting it to actually stream to Meets, and I'm realizing that I forgot a step, so I apologize for that. Once you've installed VirtualCam, you have to turn it on. I'm very, very sorry. So come over here to Tools. Under Tools, if you have correctly installed VirtualCam, it's going to be right there at the bottom, VirtualCam. So you click on it. I have mine, I click Auto Start, which means every time I open OBS, it automatically starts VirtualCam. So that's why I don't really think about it, because it just happens automatically. I don't think about having to do that anymore. So you can click Auto Start, and then it'll just open automatically. Keep the aspect ratio I like, because otherwise it's going to chop off pieces of your screen when it sends it to Google. Buffered frames 10 is fine. Horizontal flip is if you're having a problem with when you send it to Google, everybody's seeing your text backwards, you can go ahead and click horizontal flip. Mine works when I don't click horizontal flip. In some apps, it does it correctly, and in some apps it doesn't. So I always just ask my kids, if I'm doing something new, if I'm in a different program or something, I always ask them, hey, can you read this word? And if not, then I can come click horizontal flip. So I'm not going to you would hit start then in order to start VirtualCam, and then it would start to work. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this again. Okay, so now what I've got here is I've got my background, but now I need the kids to be able to see my face. Okay? So I'm going to go to add again, add a source, and come up to video capture device. A video capture device is going to be your webcam. Okay? So I'm going to come here, and I'm just going to call mine Canon webcam. And okay. So now it's going to pop up, and it's going to ask for which camera it's going to be trying to find. And I'm just realizing that I'm hoping it doesn't have a problem with the fact that I actually have this streaming to the other source. I might have to take it off of this other source. Yes, I am. Okay, so I'm going to have to take this webcam off. There we go. There we go. Okay. So the problem was that I had my webcam trying to send it to two programs, my screen recording software and the OBS software, and it couldn't send it to both. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and actually pause this recording for a second, because I'm going to have to restart this in order, because I had my webcam going to two places. Okay, so solve that problem. So I went here and I added the video capture device, and I chose my webcam from the list here under device. I've got all these webcams. This is the one that I want, and then I'm going to hit OK. All right. So now I'm in the middle of my screen. Got a couple of problems. One, I've got this black box around me, which is going to be unique to me. It happens to be because of the type of camera I'm using, and the utility software that I'm using makes that black box around it because of aspect ratios, and I'll show you how to fix that if your camera happens to be doing it as well. So the other problem is that I have a green screen behind me where I want to be able to see through my green screen to the background. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, and this is a trick that you will use constantly in OBS, if you want to crop an image. Okay, so I've got my background here. I'm going to go ahead and come down here to this little lock icon. You see that? And I'm going to click lock on the background. That way I can't accidentally move it because it's going to be frustrating because sometimes it'll select the background when I'm trying to select the actual video. So I'm going to lock the background. So in order to crop this image, I'm going to hit Alt. So I'm holding the Alt key down, and I'm going to drag it like this. So as I hold the Alt key down, you'll notice it is just cropping me out instead of making it smaller. If I wanted myself to be bigger, which I'm about to, I unpress the Alt, and then I can make myself larger. So there we go. So now I'm really big. Hi. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is turn my green screen into an actual green screen. So you're going to come down here to the source, and this is obviously only applicable if you actually have a green screen. If you don't have an actual physical green screen behind you, this will not work. This software doesn't have any sort of virtual green screen where it estimates, like your phone will sometimes do this, where it estimates the depth of your face versus the background, and it puts like a virtual green screen behind you. This program won't do this. This literally just needs to be the color green. So you right-click on Canon RP and on your webcam, and you hit filters. Okay, so now I'm going to add a green screen filter. It's called a chroma key. So you're going to come down here. These are my effect filters. These are audio video filters, so really those are almost never going to be needed to be used by you. Those are kind of more advanced. Come down here to chroma key. I'm just going to call it chroma key, and there we go. So all of these different settings, you can play with them if it's not working. This looks pretty good to me. There's a little bit of green cast on the back of my chair right there, but I don't care. So you can also have different colors, blue and magenta. I will tell you this, from a photography standpoint, the reason that we pick green as opposed to blue and magenta is because green is easier to take out of a scene without messing with skin tones. So that's why most places use green. Blue is better in terms of the camera being able to see the difference between blue and your skin tones, but that's almost a moot point with modern cameras. So I always choose green, but if you have another color of screen, that will work too. You can pick any color custom color there. So let me show you a couple of things that this does. The similarity here is going to tell how similar does the color need to be to its base green. So like this right here would be, it has to be exactly the exact green that this thing thinks is green. And none of these pixels up here are going to be exactly green. So none of them are transparent. If I go all the way up here, there can be any color. Any color at all can be transparent. There we go. Now I'm all transparent. So you want to bring it back down. Woo! That's weird. Bring it back down until you can't see the background. And my head. There we go. Okay? So you might have to play around with all of these a little bit. I find that the default settings usually work just fine. So there we go. So now you can see that my background is transparent and my face is not. This is especially helpful, I've found sometimes, like if I've got alphabet strips behind me, or on top of me, sometimes I'll move my head down, I've got alphabet strips, I need to be able to point to them. So I can do this, which is helpful because then they're transparent and I can point to them a little bit easier. So you see let me go ahead just to show you real fast. Again, we go to meets, you will see that there I am. Okay, so this is what you would see on the Google Meets. And for those of you who saw me in Google Meets, you would know that I had this and then I had a different background. It's just like a coffee shop thing that I use when I'm having meetings with grown-ups instead of the cartoon classroom that I have. So, okay. So now you get the basics of what OBS is. And one of the ways that it can be used so effectively, and the reason that I spent the time to learn this program and figure out how to implement it in my classroom is because it was vital that my kids be able to see my face, and see the shapes that my mouth was making, and see what my face was doing, and see what my hands were doing while I was presenting information to them. And there was no other way for this to happen. If I had my face on the Google Meet and I shared a screen with them, then they just see the shared screen, or they just see my face. There was no way to get them to be able to see my face and the shared screen at the same time, and that was not working. I needed them to be able to see the shapes, because I'm a reading teacher, so I needed them to be able to see the shapes that my mouth was making. Okay, duh, right? Like, they've got to see what my tongue is doing there. So that is the main reason that I implemented this. It was vital. It was absolutely vital. It also turned out to just be really, really helpful for a lot of different reasons. So I'm going to show you a couple of those reasons now. So this is my lecture scene. I'm going to come up here. I've got a couple of other scenes that I've made. I did have a math class as well in here back when I was doing math, but I'm not teaching math anymore, so I deleted that. So up here I've got my different scenes. You can hit new to create a new scene. So if you hit new, it's going to be just like this again, where it's just all blank, and you can do whatever you want. So I'm going to come into my office hours scene to show y'all what this is. So this was my office hours scene that I made, and you can see that, or a scene collection, I'm sorry. I keep saying scene. This is a scene collection. It is a group of scenes. You can see here that I've got several scenes, okay? So what I did was I had office hours from 10 to 12, and I would have kids come and go during those office hours. Sometimes I needed maybe a bathroom break or to get another 12th cup of coffee. And so I would, if there were no kids, I might get up from my desk for a minute, but I didn't want a kid to log into office hours, see that I wasn't there, or just see a blank screen or something and decide that they were in the wrong spot. So I created this in order to show them that I am here. Okay, so I've got three different options here. I've got be right back, meaning just give me a second, I'm in the bathroom or something, and I'll be right back. So they could see, hey, you're in the right spot, but I just need you to hang out for a second. I'll be here in a second. This was the one that I had for when nobody was in the classroom, but I was sitting here and maybe I was working, or I was just kind of waiting for somebody to come into office hours. I didn't want them to see my faces. I was just doing my regular activities or whatever, so I would put this up to show them, hey, I'm here, just sort of knock and let me know you're here, and I'll unmute my mic. This I would use for, a lot of times actually, we would have like ARDs at 11 o'clock or something. I would put this up to let them know, hey, I'm in a meeting right now. And oftentimes they would actually write in the chat questions, and I would be able to be in a meeting. I'd be like, hey, this is your quick answer, but I'm in a meeting. And then, they could check in. I'd say, hey, I'm going to be done in 30 minutes. Come back then. And they would know. So these were my office hours ones. I found those very, very helpful. So you can see each of these have different pieces to the scene. So for instance, the meeting scene, I've got, oops, didn't mean to unlock that. Click right here, you can unview something, unsee it, right? That's what the eye is. So the classroom that's the background picture right there. The whiteboard border is just an image I have that's a picture of a whiteboard. Office hours text is that label at the top. In a meeting is my text at the bottom. Got the raised hand of the kid over in the side, and then I've got the little icon in there so that they can see, the raised hand button in Google Meets. That's what, this was actually the image from that raised hand button. So, so that was helpful for my office hours. So let me show you what I did with my reading dyslexia class. So you can see here I've got several scenes, and I'm going to go through how all of these work, the most important part of it. So here, this is my reading lecture. This was just like I did before on that first scene where it's just me talking. I just need them to focus on me and nothing else. They can't be distracted by my 3-year-old escaping from somebody while she's just taking a bath and she's just screaming naked through the living room. They can't see any of that because I've got the green screen. Not that that would ever happen. I'm a very responsible parent. Okay, so let me show you some of this. This is where it really starts to get good. So here is my scene for whiteboard. This is the scene that I would use when I needed my kids to see my mouth and see what I was writing or doing at the same time, okay? Whether I had a Google Slides up or a Jamboard or anything like that, that's what I would use. So what I did here was I've got all of these different sources here, and I can select in real time what I want the kids to be able to see. So first I've got the classroom background. That's just there. It should be locked. The whiteboard border, again, should be locked. Oh, it's unlocked. Which is just that part right there. And I've got my face. Okay? So I've got these three things are really just the basics. Okay? Then I've got all of this stuff that's part of my classroom that I may need to switch on or off depending on the activity that we're doing. So this is a chart. It is just an image that I pulled from my hard drive. This is, when I was doing this last lesson, this was what we were working on. So if you double click on it now that I've added it, I can browse, I can add any image I want. So if we're working on long A, and there's a chart for that, I can put that up there. If we're working on the shape of the letter D, I can put that up there, and that can be like their reference chart. So that's like their, you know, you've got a chart on your classroom wall that you want kids to be able to reference when they're doing their work. That's what's going to go right up there. You can also just hide it if you don't want them to be distracted by anything. Now we've got these other things. All of these right here are going to access different pieces that I have on my computer. So you can see over here, now we're starting to get into what all this is. So full screen slides, if I open that and I go to, where's the present? I'm going crazy. There we go. Okay, you can see that over here, all they can see is just the slides right here. So if I come over here and I click, there we go. There's to the next slide. And this was A, B, B, C, D, like that. That's what that is. But anyway, you can tell that this is a PowerPoint, or not a PowerPoint, it's a slides presentation. And I can just move through it, and they aren't distracted by anything. It looks like it's just coming on the whiteboard, right? If I am on partial screen slides, okay, if I take that off and I see this, partial screen slides, this is this exact same thing, except that I have cropped it. So what I see over here is all of this, but I've cropped it, and I'm going to show you. Remember I said hit Alt? So I'm going to show you what I mean. If you go Alt out all the way here, you can see that this is actually my full screen. And all I've done, because I know that whenever I hit full screen over here, whenever I log into my computer and I've got this monitor right here and I hit full screen, it is always the same ratio. It's always the same aspect ratio. It's the same number of pixels because I don't change this monitor out. And so when I come in here and I crop this, I know that every single time I open up Google Slides, it is always going to look like they're always only going to be able to see this one piece of it because Google Slides is always the same size. So I can just do that. So now you can see, if I come over here, you can see my little mouse. Okay, and if I decide, oh, I need to change this part, I can do that. You can see it in real time. It's coming over here, changing that, and but all they can see is this one little bit up there. Just a little bit. There we go. The Smart Notebook is an app that I downloaded, which is actually the Smart Notebook, like the app that's like the actual brand Smart Notebook. I haven't eaten today, you guys. I need food. Okay, so this, again, is cropped, and it is cropped to just this area right here. So this little corner right here. And this is great because it gives me a lot of pin options. So when my kids, and I don't have it out right now, but I actually have a tablet, like a Wacom tablet that lets me, again, it's just, I use it for photography, so I just happen to have it. You don't need one to do this. It's just easier because the cursive ends up looking not like that. It looks correct. But anyway, so this lets you draw, so we can do whatever, you know, math we're going to do or whatever, and then this is drawing like it's on a whiteboard. And for the record, they are not seeing this green line. That's something that only you see as you're doing all this. So notice that this part is off of, like this down here you can't see. That's cropped. But if I come over here, there we go, you can see it now. So see, I've just cropped that one area out. Okay? And then the last one that I have up here is Jamboard. And I use Jamboard here, and again, this is just this thing, but cropped. So that's why I have these different scenes and these different slides, is because each one of them is cropped specifically to that app, and so I can switch between them really easily. I just have to turn this off and on and switch over on my slide, and you can see it. Some of the other ways that you can use this app, here's my stories. So this right here is basically a picture of a book, and then it's got 3 pieces. You can see it's got the title, the actual story, and it's got the picture. These are dynamic. And what I mean by that is I have a text file on my computer that has each of these stories in it. And I will show you. So right here, this is my file. It's under, in fact, I can even just show you. Come over here. Actually, I'm going to move this back. Teaching, where was it? It's, there we go. Okay, current Bonnie Klein picture, current Bonnie Klein story, current Bonnie Klein title. So if I come over here, and let's say, because these are the stories that I used for my kids. Let's say they're on lesson 20. Let's say, here is your story now. As soon as I hit save, that updates over here. So I just have to copy and paste the text in that we're reading for that day, and I don't have to mess with this at all. I just copy and paste everything into the notebook. Same thing with the picture, same thing with the title. I found this on the internet, this little guy right here. I found it on the internet, and I just saved it as Bonnie Klein picture, and there it is right there. And so all I have to do is update it. It takes like 60 seconds to update this whole thing, okay? And the way that I did that was you come here to add, and you add text, okay? I'm going to create that new text, okay? So you've got a couple of options. One, you can just type the text in like that. Change your fonts and the titles and all that kind of stuff, and then, woo, there you go. You've got some text right there, okay? The other way to do it is if you go to add text, do it again, I'm going to read from file. And that's what I did. And you don't want a special file, you don't want like a docs file or anything like that, just TXT. And if you don't know how to create a TXT file, you can open the software Notepad and just save it as a TXT file. That's it, just the text. You don't want any fancy stuff in there at all. And so then you can just browse and you add the text in, and just like anything else, you add the image, add the text, all that kind of stuff. So that's what that means when it says read from file. That's what I'm doing here, is reading from file. Here I've got an alphabet strip. So again, I was showing you I can just point to the different letters as we're going down. I can say, oh, what was this one again? And because it's transparent behind me, they can see. Read aloud story time is just this, but with a background of books, because it's stories. I will put next to, and I haven't set this one up, but I would put next to me the images from the story, and this would be more like if we're reading an actual story, not just one of the short like phonics readers, but reading an actual book, like a novel together or something like that. I could put the pages from the novel up here, and then they could follow along with it. So real fast, I'm going to go through what each of these little things does. Okay, so when you go to add source, you've got all these different options. Okay, audio input capture and audio output capture you will probably not use. Those are really mostly used for recording. It wants to make sure that, like, if you need to add multiple microphones, or if you need to add a source from your computer or something like that. But if you're just doing something like Google Meets, Google just takes your microphone. You don't have to have an audio source in OBS, because Google is just doing it live with your microphone. Some of you will notice, or have noticed, that when I am in meetings like this, and I look like this, that there's a little bit of lag, and that's why. But there's unfortunately nothing you can do about that, because it's going through too many sources. All right, to add a browser, that's going to add the actual, like if you want people to be able to see just the window of the browser. I have never used this. I always just decide to do a window capture because that's just easier and you have a little bit more customization over it. But you could use that as a source. Color source is going to be if you just want a plain color, like a box of red somewhere or something like that. Could be your background or something like that, just a box of a color. A display capture is a capture from a whole monitor. So I've got these two monitors set up. This is my monitor 2 and this is my monitor 1. Oh, I've got that open for some reason. So if I wanted to capture the whole display, meaning if I captured this whole display, what it means is, like, let's say I'm capturing from display 1 over here. That means it's capturing everything. And if I minimize this, it can see this. And if I minimize this, you can see this, right? Like, it's the actual display itself. Whereas, as opposed to window capture, which I'll show you in a second. Game capture, you'll probably never use. It's to plug in like a PS4 or whatever if you want the OBS to be able to stream your video game. Image is just a single image that will just be a static image on the screen. Image slideshow I used a lot. I don't have my slideshow strip out there anymore because we stopped using it in my class. But what image slideshow does is it allows you to load several images into the software, and then you just press your arrows and you can click through them like it's a PowerPoint slide. I find those most useful for things like math charts. So when I had my kids who needed to be able to visually see, and I needed to be able to like interact with them with their multiplication charts or their place value charts or anything like that, then I loaded all of those as images into an image slideshow, and then I could just scroll through until I found the one that they wanted. And it was a lot easier to work with than trying to load up new windows and trying to find where it was on my computer. It was just already there because it was a static thing that never changed. Like the multiplication chart does never change. I don't have to do anything with it. It just is there. I also did it with alphabet cards. So like when my kids were working on letter G, then I would load all of the letters up to G, and then we could flip through the alphabet cards. So stuff like that is very helpful. Media source I've never used. I don't even know. Scene I also have never used. That actually adds another scene in like as a group. I don't use that. I mean, you can experiment. Text I showed you, it allows you to add static text or dynamic text, meaning you can just type what you want to say, like I did with my office hours, or you can pull from a file like I did with my Bonnie Klein stories. A video capture device is going to be the webcam, like me being able to see right now. Any sort of webcam device there. And then a window capture. Window capture allows you to capture a single window or a single tab. So if I have a window capture device, let's say that I map the window capture device. Actually, let me show you this real fast because that actually is kind of complicated. I'm just going to call it window capture because I'm going to show you. So I've got several windows open. I don't have a calculator open. What is that? So let's say I want to match, I want to open this, and I want this to be on my screen or whatever. You've got options here. Window match priority is the option that you're going to want to look at. Match title, otherwise find window of same type. That means that you can see up here this says chrome.exe. That's the type, that's the exe file. Writing arrows -Google Jamboard -Google Chrome is the title. So do you want it to always only get that? Window title must match means that the window title has to be that in order for this scene to work, which can be helpful if you have several different scenes or several different Jamboards you have open at the same time or something. You can list them all separately, and then the Jamboards won't grab one from the other. They'll only grab exact matches. Or you can match a title, otherwise find window of the same type, meaning, okay, if it can't find writing arrows -Google Jamboard -Google Chrome, then it's going to find something that's a Jamboard of Google Chrome, or it's going to find some window that's Google Chrome. And if it doesn't find that, then it's just going to not show anything at all, as opposed to a display capture. Oh, good, now I'm gone. I don't actually know I know what I did. Haha. I put that there. Yes, I do want to remove window capture. I forgot what I was saying now. Oh, as opposed to display capture, which, like, if I close this out, if I exit out of this, then display capture would see this, whereas window capture would not. So I really feel like that's most of it. I really hope that I'm not forgetting anything. If you have any questions, email me abutler@garlandisd.net. If I said something that was confusing and didn't make any sense, or if I didn't touch on something that you wanted me to touch on, or anything like that, then just let me know, and I'll probably go, oh, yeah, super meant to mention that, and I didn't. So anyway, abutler@garlandisd.net, and good luck.